Hello, everyone, and welcome to the curtain raiser of Indian Conference on AI and Law 2021. This is Aditi Sharma, Vice President of IndoCon 2021, and I, on behalf of ISIL, warmly welcome you all with the hope that you're excited and will enjoy this conference this year. As you all might know, that this conference is a forum where we have provided a platform to AI experts from across various countries discussing ways to impart solutions on various normative and unconventional issues relating to artificial intelligence, law, and ethics. In the first edition of IndoCon, the focus areas were central to the theme of transition to a new era in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic. The importance to bridge the gap between individual rights and group rights is a lesson we learn from it, and the growing technologies which do not differentiate from the domains of individual and collective rights are problematic because intelligently induced social control is increasing through cyberspace and dependence on cyber and digital activities. Owing to the development of AI as a constant life companion of people as well as most professional around the globe, it is highly important to come up with a solution of a legitimate structure and approaches concerning AI. Therefore, last year, the panels seek to understand AI regularization and the need for dynamic policies to address these issues. However, this year we have decided on a universalized and India centric global theme for the conference, which is central to the notion of cyclical AI. Consequently, this year the Secretariat has decided to undertake a new policy agenda for IndoCon, which is the cyclicity of AI and human resilience. Since the theme is India centric, the term cyclic makes sense because the concept of eternal and cyclic time lies at the heart of Indic worldview. In our culture, there is no ear dot, nor there is a final disaster that will end the humanity. The Indic belief is that closing of one door implies the opening of another, and destruction of cosmos only signifies its recreation. The entire material world is thus everlasting cycles of creation, sustenance, and destruction. Therefore, by cyclical AI, we mean that phases of growth of human society as a whole is that means evolution need to be lined in terms of examining the risks that might emerge due to multiplying AI products and services. We need an approach which adapts and conditions how random uncertainties become certain as naturally as possible. The fact that societal and physical changes are unpredictable, we must believe that resilience is the key to achieve cyclical AI. And thus the theme, the cyclicity of AI and human resilience. This was just a short introduction of what we'll be discussing in detail throughout our panels in this conference. And this year we have four amazing panels scheduled tomorrow and day after tomorrow in the afternoon and in the evening. Tomorrow, that is on October 2 at 4 p.m. Indian Standard Time, we have a panel on AI and blockchain need for reform in Indian tax regime. Then on October 3, we have panels on role of AI hype in the world of information warfare scheduled at 2 p.m., deciphering explainable AI for the Indo-Pacific at 4 p.m., and Indian civilization and the aestheticization of AI, a systematic approach at 7 p.m. With all the hope that you will gain immensely from these panels, here are the special remarks by President Mr. Abhivardhan.
Greetings to all. You know me by my work in artificial intelligence and law. I am the founder and chairperson of Indian Society of Artificial Intelligence and Law. My name is Abhivardhan, and I'm glad to give special remarks as the president of the conference. So, first of all, we are privileged to have your presence as an audience to watch us, and we are happy that you're interested in the Indian Conference on Artificial Intelligence and Law at the first place. Now, one thing which is important for everyone to understand is that artificial intelligence is a field which focuses and centralizes on technology distancing. This defines the way artificial intelligence has been remarkably involved in the whole set of process. As a disruptive technology, this is something which India must consider as a matter of vulnerability. As things will evolve with time, it is important for India, that is Bharat, to adopt an approach which is indigenous by all means. And to adopt the indigenous approach, we need to understand the realities we live in. So, in general, the Indian Society of Artificial Intelligence and Law has been fostering values and understandings from a purely research perspective, as in how these things work and why not, and why it is important that technological outlooks are seen differently. That stems from the concept of dharma, the concept of Rit, which is the eternal order, and also it stems to other things at the same time. How that comes into being is, of course, an important question, but what has to be done is also an important question. So, for example, India is a part of the Quad. India, the last week, as you're seeing this, approved the Quad principles on technology governance, along with the US, Australia, and Japan. Interestingly, they focus on universal human rights and other things related to explainability and transparency of artificial intelligence and other disruptive technologies when it comes to critical technology. Human resilience is at the top of the agenda of many countries across the world when it comes to disruptive technology. What does it show? How are we defined by that? Well, we are defined by them because they show what our approaches are and will be. This is something which is pretty unique to the idea that cyclicity of AI and human resilience actually go hand in hand. So generally people look at policy from a perspective of cyclicity as well as linearity. Something linear means a line, something cyclic means a cycle. It's pretty simple. When you have something which is a cycle, it's like a circle. It is a process which goes on and on and on and on. If it's a line, you can make it a polygon or so forth, but there will be linear processes in the go. You can try to make it a circle, but it doesn't become linear anymore. Therefore, we at ICL analyze policy from a perspective of linearity as well as cyclic consequentiality. We analyze both of them and we propose that whatsoever will be the policy problems, the solution lies there only. And of course, the social and anthropological circumstances which are there, and of course, the governance issues, legal issues which are in tandem. This year, we have some really interesting panels, such as we have one panel dedicated to artificial intelligence, blockchain, and taxation law. Another panel we have dedicated to artificial intelligence hype and information warfare. We all know that AI hype is a global problem, and it is a problem which many people are suffering from a perspective of accountability and from a perspective of explainability, because many AI technologies are yet not explainable. Our panelists will explain that in detail in the panels. We already know this is a global problem. In India, we just don't feel much about it because in India, there are not so many AI technologies yet, despite the Startup India scheme, because even in 7 years, it will take time a lot to go, considering the Make in India and the Startup India scheme started by India's Prime Minister. Now, one thing which we are very clear is that artificial intelligence, when it's being dealt from a Bharatiya approach, needs to be dealt with three aspects: realism, cognizance, plus competence, and of course, the index knowledge systems. Now, index knowledge systems are quite interesting. They are based on the aspect of decentralization of communities and societies. Therein, governance issues change very differently. They shape also. They also focus on the collective and the individual's relationship in a much better and nuanced way that will define the way technology works. Hence, it is important for us to understand why technology is to be dealt, how it is important, and if it has to be incorporated accordingly, how it should be done practically. I'm not saying it should be stopped. We can't stop technological innovation. In fact, we must be clear that India is way behind when it comes to intellectual property index by the WIPO. Why? Because we are not able to compete China and the US right now. We might have plunged, why we might have jumped up from some rankings in the 80s to some ranking in the 40s. But that still does not define Indianness because Indianness has to do with understanding complex situations and coming up with approaches. We are still slow in that. We have to learn from countries like Vietnam, Japan, Israel, Singapore, and so on. So it becomes important for us to see wherever it is possible to induce approaches which make sense. And once that happens, I think the larger scheme itself will unfold and people will become more aware. Also, it should not be an issue within the scheme of awareness. It should be beyond awareness. It should be something which focuses on policy conundrums which define our anthropological realities. How those anthropological realities work. I'd like to quote somebody very reverend. I respect his works, and I believe that with utmost certainty that people must read his works when it comes to economics and Indian culture. So, India's principal economic advisor to the Ministry of Finance, Sri Sanjeev Sanyal, said once on Twitter that economics is about managing a series of random shocks and their unpredictable consequences. Economists who believe in equilibriums also do believe in the tooth fairy. What it means is that you can go on with the approach of equilibriums, Newtonian economics, balancing things out, pulling the lever. This is the language of Newtonian economics. But when it comes to economics of disruption, when we know that disruption is going to happen, and laissez-faire nor socialism are the solutions to the problem. Because socialism itself, again, nationalization based on an approach that yes, it will work out. That is how the 5-year plans have been. But again, it depends on how efficacy they have. And again, we can contest on that considering China's approach. Because there are both pros and cons within China's own approach of tackling disruptive technologies and companies who are manufacturing or even providing services based on those technologies afterwards. That is one thing. The other problem is with the laissez-faire neoliberal model. With that, what happens is since we are a part of the Anglosphere, we are influenced by the Anglosphere actors. We will be influenced by the Anglosphere actors. We are a stakeholder there. We are a part of the GPAI. We are a part of the OECD framework. We are a part of various important compacts and I would say not agreements, but I would say cooperation clouds. And I see it very and I say it very responsibly, I must admit. So nuances are important here. Whenever it is claimed that AI is an important technology, then we are dealing with a panel which is related to Indo-Pacific as a region. Now, the Indo-Pacific has become a very important talk shop idea, but it is not just a normative framework. It is a landlocked and a maritime reality at the same time. And countries like India and China have a very important stake in the Indo-Pacific region. China, of course, is considered to be a civilizational rival for India, and that is something which is because of the very nature of the Sino-Indo relations, and but we don't wish to comment much on that. However, we will of course say that when it comes to the Indo-Pacific, it could be said that it is ASEAN-centric from a technological point of view as well, but it should be Indo-centric or India-centric from a technological point of view. We at ICL believe in this, or let's just seek in this, is because of the simple reason that the approach itself, if is Indian, is indigenous, it will define the future course of innovation on its own. When it happens, how it happens, I'm not the right person to judge that because we are still researching on them. We can't predict anything right away. We can't make sweeping remarks. So we are not interested to do so. However, that being said, the Indo Pacific is an important region, and the explainability of artificial intelligence will define the way AI as a disruptive technology has a role when it comes to democratization. So there are geopolitical issues which are inclined to it in the concept of soft power as well as the constraints of hard power. We will have the role of artificial intelligence, especially let us say human-centered automation in some aspects, not artificial intelligence, of course, sometimes. So it's a complex issue. It's a question of manifest reliability, and at the end of the day, I would say that since that's the case, we have to be ready. We discuss these aspects in the Explainable AI in the Indo-Pacific panel. I hope that you like this panel as well. And lastly, we will be discussing um, the role of the Indic knowledge systems in developing AI ethics from an aesthetic point of view, a soft power related discussion, a discussion of human dignity, understanding and celebrating human dignity, embracing the ideas of dharma and the principles of Indic philosophy, how they work around and they actually are in tandem with the realities that we live in. We have a very interesting panel to come up with, so do not miss that. So this year we have some very customized panels for the Indian Conference on Artificial Intelligence and Law. We really and sincerely hope that you will like this experience and you will come up with a lot of good ideas, maybe inspired by us, and we will be very happy to know that. We are just a part of the process in the sense that we believe that there are individual causes who are considered to be lost causes in technology law from an Indic point of view, and especially the Bharatiya and therefore the Indian point of view, who wish to come up with nuanced ideas and policy solutions. We at the Indian Society of Artificial Intelligence and Law have been inclined to do the same, and that has been our agenda for long. Thank you. Namo Vaha. See you this year in IndoCon 2021. And of course, do attend the live panels. I'm sure you will love the experience. Thank you.
With this, we come to an end of this curtain raiser, and in the end, allow me to once again warmly welcome you all to IndoCon 2021. We'll meet again tomorrow at 4 p.m. for the panel AI and Blockchain Need for Reforms in Indian Tax Regime, moderated by Mr. Manohar Samal. So stay tuned and keep logged into the sessions of IndoCon. Thank you.